Hi everyone, I'm George Farrar. Welcome to JAX 93, Jacksonville as it was in the year 1993. In 1993, I was living with my father in our house on the west side not far from 103rd Street. Since 1993, if I ever needed to cheer myself up, all I had to do was just simply remember anything that happened in 1993 and I would smile. My hometown was spiraling forward quickly to an envisioned brighter future, promised at the threshold of an urban renewal spending package fueled by political hubris that would greatly impact the city. There would be fast-breaking developments happening in the city's football team quest, which would be punctuated by possibly the happiest day in the city's history, November 30th, 1993, as Jacksonville was awarded an expansion team from the National Football League, beating out St. Louis, Memphis, and Baltimore for the honor. And I can remember on that very day, shortly after 4 p.m., standing in the kitchen of our home and watching an announcement on television coming from, of all places, Rosemont, Illinois, and it being announced and being so happy and so excited. And I must have been jumping up and down from the time of the announcement to the time that my father got home, probably around 7:30. And then the only reason I probably wasn't jumping up and down was we jumped in the car and went out, I believe, for dinner. And after dinner, we drove back home, and of course, we got back onto 103rd Street. And to this day, I am so thrilled, and I look back with such great fondness at the absolute celebration that was out there, and you could literally see on the streets of Jacksonville. It was like the 4th of July, New Year's, Christmas holidays, all rolled into one. People were selling Jaguars t-shirts already that they were hand making. It was pretty wild. And I realized that night right there at 103rd Street in Ricker that the city was going to this next level. And it was something that really amazed me, and it inspired me. And it was a long time in coming. We talked here in this very series about the effort to get the Colts NFL team in 1979. There were other efforts also, but this one, through coordination, civic engagement, and the culmination of the hard work needed, the practical hard work, civil engineering, economic work that was needed in prior years to make the city an NFL city, a great accomplishment for the city. In March of 1993, what was called the storm of the century, the 20th century that is, it blew through. Heavy winds hit the panhandle. People died from tornadoes in Central Florida, and I can recall riding in a car, crossing the old Fuller Warren Bridge and seeing the heavy waves churning in the St. Johns River. And in 1993, I graduated Forest High School on Firestone Road, now known as Westside High, on Jacksonville's west side, and began driving the roads, bridges, expressways, and interstates of Jacksonville and beyond in my little two-door Toyota Corolla. It was the only time I ever drove a stick shift. I learned to drive stick shift from my dad in that car in the parking lot of the old Normandy Mall, and eventually all over the city. How can I forget my first thrilling attempt to drive on Lenox Avenue? I would discover the uniqueness and richness of Riverside and Avondale as respites for cool drives in my car, which had no air conditioner. I remember giving myself the challenge of driving that little car with acceleration issues over a new span of the new Acosta Bridge in the 1990s, and it was an experience I'll never forget. I had the luxury of time that summer of 93, the last time I experienced a summer like it. I had the fun of hanging with my high school friends, some of whom I would still study and hang out with at FCCJ Kent campus, where I attended on an honors scholarship. I can remember enjoying Friday nights, the momentous picking and choosing of movie videos from the Blockbuster that would set the tone of your weekend, or catching a movie at the Regal Cinemas Theater, previously known as Cineplex Odeon, on 103rd. The hive of activity with Walmart and Gators Dockside thrown in, a mid-1990s town square, if you would, of 103rd Street on the west side of Jacksonville. The crowds, the people, the coming and the going, the back and forth. I would remember driving home on 103rd Street late at night after hanging out with my friends and watching movies, let's say like Casino with Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci. Coming home late at night, my father trusted me I could drive home late. It wasn't a big deal. I can remember the traffic lights shining down over a quiet roadway that during the day I would know as a busy thoroughfare as I learned to drive a stick shift car. The hustle and bustle of the visits to send out or get mail at the Lakeshore Post Office on West Connect, grabbing a lunch with Dad at Arby's at 103rd Street and Jamie's before trekking down to Orange Park or across the river to do the weekend things. Please stay tuned for a brief special tribute about a best friend of mine at the end of our show. Great times were ahead for me, and my dad and I knew it. 1993 was a year of exciting, proud moments amidst intense study and stress as I would wrap up my high school years in a blur of advanced placement exams, final exams, special events I had to attend, people I had to meet, not to forget the actual graduation ceremony at the old Veterans Memorial Coliseum, since demolished. Amidst the attendance of almost everyone in my family, friends, the students, the dignitaries, and then that fall moving on, commuting to FCCJ's Kent campus, the community college at Roosevelt Boulevard, Park and Blanding Boulevard, which would be my hub of activity for a couple years. I was coming of age as the city's investments in itself were paying off in big ways, from the cleanup of the riverfront in the 1950s up to the River City Renaissance, voted in by the Jacksonville City Council. The progress people had worked for many, many years was reaching a dynamo. It was basically fueling itself almost, if you think about it. For years, people fought the pollution, the urban blight, got the convention center going in the old railroad station, building the Jacksonville Landing, Metropolitan Park, the Riverwalk, getting rid of the tolls. All of these things were progress through the years. I could see it because I could enjoy Jacksonville more year after year. There were more places to go, and especially for a guy with some old Toyota. But still something was holding the city back. There was increasingly a reluctance to do the things that would put the city past the touchdown line, so to speak. The city council had already voted down a deal for an NFL expansion team proposal, but it had been deferred for later consideration. Later on in the year, they would again vote and would have a proposal to present before the NFL. In 1993, there was another proposal put before the city council. It was a big, huge spending proposal. It was called River City Renaissance, and it was going to revitalize the city, and it was going to pump money all over the city for all sorts of things, lots of services and improvements in city facilities. So I would go ahead and tell you right now that I believe it was brilliant in many ways, but some of it was tragically flawed. And I mean tragically flawed. You can right now go and see where it was tragically flawed. You can see it. And I'll talk more about that with you in JAX 94. We'll talk about La Villa. There was a great legacy that River City Renaissance had for the city. But I want to take a comprehensive look, and we'll do that in our next show. So we're basically setting the stage for a approximately $235 million spending program to embark upon some impacts on the city. Getting the expansion team, believe it or not, wasn't the only big thing that happened in Jacksonville in November of 1993. That was quite a month, because in November of 1993, Nirvana, a favorite band of mine, came to Jacksonville, and they performed at the Morocco Shrine Auditorium. I didn't have the opportunity to attend. I had a lot going on at the time, 18 semester hours of academics, including lots of math remediation, a very long math class, biology where I was studying genomics, like RNA, DNA, the honors classes I was taking as part of my honors scholarship at Kent campus. So as we begin to bring our show to an end today, I guess I reflect upon those times. I just knew that Nirvana was going to come back to Jacksonville in 94 and 95, and I was going to be able to check them out then when things were a bit more stabilized with my academics, because that was my top priority in 93. Kurt Cobain committed suicide in 1994, so that opportunity did not ever present itself. Any free advice I would throw out there to you would be, take the chances when you can get them. If you really want something, make it happen, and do it right then. Because you may not have that fun opportunity down the road. If it's one thing we know in our studies of history, looking at the city, is that things change, and they can change very quickly. So I've done some tributes that are available on the JAX Live channel about 103rd Street, about Forest High School. So those tributes are available, and I talk at length about, even more about 1993 and about life in the 90s on the west side of Jacksonville. But I'd like to take a special moment at the end of our show today, and I'm going to bring up some lyrics of a song that I would hear practically every time I jumped in my Toyota Corolla and would drive around, learning to drive and then successfully driving around the city. And for me, in 1993, it described where I was at in life. But I won't cry for yesterday. There's an ordinary world somehow I have to find. And as I try to make my way to the ordinary world, I will learn to survive. After I produced JAX 92, I found out that one of my closest best friends, Walter J. Brown, had passed away. So I'd like to take a moment at the end of our show today to recognize his public service and leadership as an Eagle Scout in the Boy Scouts and as a Jacksonville Sheriff's Officer for 20 years. Walter was one of my best friends of all time. And I look back at the times that we had. Earlier on, I recollected with you about the times I had with my best friends. And I knew him from my time at Jeb Stewart to Forest, on to community college and Florida State. And so today, I recognize his role in my life. And when we look back at our high school friends, the people we grew up with and knew, it's important for us to recognize where we came from. And I had such great times that were made possible by these amazing friendships I had in these incredibly fun times that were 1993. We celebrate our history as we celebrate the city's history. I greatly appreciate your viewership of the series over the years. Stay tuned to this channel for coming episodes spanning 1994 to 1995. I expect to broadcast JAX 94 in May and to complete our series with JAX 95 by June 15th, 2022. We're on Facebook groups to History Jacksonville, where there's even more Jacksonville history to enjoy. Please check out theleftturnetwork.com for all of my shows. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. See you later.